Good morning. Before I start, I would like to ask one question just to know you better. Um, just like, how many of you have more than 5 pair of shoes in your closet? Okay, how many of you know exact number of pair of shoes you have at home? Not that much. So same here. So I was, oh, you're a girl. Well, I don't want to be like a stereotype, but well, you're a girl and so congrats, because I'm moving to this direction as well now. So I used to be the one who couldn't resist a sale. Uh, and actually it wasn't just occasional behavior of mine. It actually became my addiction, like huge addiction, because I used to spend 90–80% of my salary on buying new clothes. And at the time I was very good at shopping, but very terrible in tech. I got my first computer, then I was 19. Until then, I didn't know how to create new folder in computer and how to copy-paste files there. And I was so terrible in computer science class at university that my grandmother said, okay, so I'm buying a computer to you just for you to catch up with other classmates, which were like way better than me. So this is like those two compositions of two, like my zero love to technologies and my huge obsession to clothing let me let made me let me create like the first Lithuanian unicorn in Lithuania. And Vinted was born when I was moving from my native town Kaunas to the capital Vilnius to study. And at that time I had to rent the apartment in the capital, which capital usually is more expensive than other cities in, like, I guess Tallinn and other places also is the same tendency. And I afforded to rent the apartment, which was 3 times smaller than my mother's apartment. And it was like I had to move all my closet, and I was like open the closet. For the first time I saw like how many stuff I have that's still with tags or worn like once or maybe twice maximum. So I counted over 100 items, just those that I didn't use. And then the idea popped to my mind that I might be not the only one girl in the world suffering from such, well, I don't know, should I say disease or obsession, but like, well, from such habit. And it happened that a few days later, I was invited to a housewarming party where I met Justas. And Justas is the guy with whom I founded Vinted. And I remember it very well. It was like 2 a.m. in the morning, and I was telling him about like my obsession, about my problem that I have, and that I'm telling him that I have solution for my problem. Is like, let's make online platform for all people that they could upload all this stuff online and sell and swap with each other. And was like Justas sitting, listening, and he said, okay, if you're trying to convince me, so you convince me. So let's do it. And Justas actually was totally opposite of me. So he was super passionate about tech, and he was a geek in the most positive way. So we combined that a geeky technological guy with enthusiastic shopaholic girl, and this is how we started Vinted. After sitting 2 weeks together on the first version, we managed to make that my closet was online. So it took 2 weeks for us to make Vinted live. And actually, we didn't know what was happening because just we launched, and it was a complete hit from the very beginning. Because we just were like seeing like numbers growing like each hour. Each 10 minutes, numbers were like growing like insane. And we didn't know what was happening because we didn't have money for marketing. So what I did, so I emailed my friends that I said, guys, I have very like perfect idea, but we don't have any money. And actually we didn't have any money for the next 2 years as well. And I said, could you just like share word of mouth with other friends? and just spread the news about this project. And for our huge surprise, in 2 hours after launch, official launch, like everyone started to call us, like the biggest radio station, online news portals, and they started to ask for interview. And for us it was like, wait, like hold, because we didn't understand what was happening. It's just what was the feeling that it seems that we discovered something huge, but we still don't get what's that. And despite early success, Justas and I saw Vinted still as a hobby project for the 2.5 years, because it was like we had normal jobs. I was working in PR, Justas was working in like IT engineer, and Vinted was just like, a hobby project after work or during the weekends. And actually we didn't earn any money, as I mentioned before, like for the like maybe 2 or more years, and it was like completely, like we were volunteers, like volunteering activity at Vinted, so no money. And after 2 years, even like despite success in our home market, Lithuania, and then later in Germany, we didn't see that this project might become global business one day, because it was still like, just when we were founding Vinted, it wasn't like in our thoughts to make a business. It was like, our thought was like, no, to make a platform where we can play as professionals, me as a marketing specialist, and Justas as a like IT engineer. So that was like the expectation what we had from Vinted at that time. But everything changed. Then one investor contacted us. So it was 2 years, more than 2 years after Vinted was found. And still then we weren't looking for extra funding. We didn't know what does it mean to look for funding. And like afterwards we found out that usually all the startups should look for for funding. But so that was the investor who found us, and he asked, don't you want to make like Vinted's kind of a global movement? Like, are you satisfied with what you have right now? And then we just sat together with the Justas, and it was like actually the first time that we asked ourselves, so what our vision is. Do we want to keep Vinted as a side project and to play with it? Or do we want to at least to try to make it a global business? And we said, okay, so maybe as a hobby project we are a little bit bored, so because it's like we grew up from that, and maybe it would be, so it should be, we should close it or should take the next stage. So we decided, okay, let's take the next stage and let's try to make business out of it. And then it started. So with the first investors' money, what we did, so we hired the first full-time employee. So it wasn't us, it was a customer support person. And yeah, and just to compare, at the moment we have 350 people in our company. This year our aim is to reach 600 people. Our offices are in Vilnius and in Berlin, also in Prague and Warsaw. And there are around 30 million members in 11 countries who are using Vinted platform to offer the closet to each other. So there's like one part of Vinted story, like this is like Vinted as a company, as a startup, how it evolved. But there is like other part, like Vinted effect or impact on me, like as a founder, and how it changed my life. Because like I spent 8 years with Vinted, because now I'm at the moment on maternity leave, if you can call it like this. And actually it gave me a lot, like it changed my life completely. And the first thing what it gave me, so Vinted gave me confidence to dream big. I was very, like, I could say like there is like, there's Milda before Vinted and Milda after Vinted. And my journey with Vinted was very, like, with lots of ups and downs. And it was actually very hard journey, but at the same time, very, very rewarding journey. And I could never imagine myself like, some kind of modest girl from small country with no business skill set could create something that like the rest of the world would admire. Actually, I was usually the one like who could never see myself to be a leader in general, or to create something that other peoples would like motivate or like to dream something about. And I always tried to like Milda before Vinted was the one who always was concerned about what other people think of her. And I always tried to look nicer, better, to be more interesting. And my family actually kept telling me all the time, like while I was in the childhood, while I was at school, that if you pay attention to yourself, this is bad because it's better to stay in the shadow. But I think it's not only a Lithuanian thing. It's, I guess it's most of us could remember this post-Soviet Union era education from our families. But the thing was that like it's better to be in a shadow because if you're in the spotlight, what does it mean? It means that you're arrogant because if you want to pay attention, that means that you want to show that you feel more superior than others. So better don't be like this. The second thing was if you are more visible, that means that people can judge you. And for me it was like very painful thing because I was so afraid of critics from others. And give Vinted, that's what it solved my problem because, or still solving, I would say, that I started to dream big because no matter what other people say, if you have your vision, if you have your dream, you just need to follow it. The second thing, Vinted showed me how to love challenges. Or I could retranslate it like, you don't know you can until you can. I could name, I don't know, at least 3 situations and I wanted to give up and to quit Vinted. But every time I had the rule, ask why. Like, why do you feel and why do you want to quit? And in most cases, the answer was, because I don't know how to do, because I'm tired of failing, because I'm tired of not succeeding and doing, like, not reaching the maximum what I wanted. And but still, I'm happy that I didn't quit because what happened? Well, then you are still in a company, so you need to move on. You need to iterate step by step. And I did that. And like then I look back, like, 2, 3, 4 years back, and I see, okay, but those small steps, they made me like more professional. They made me like better in most of the things. And so boundaries that we make in our minds, it's just in our minds. Like people don't imagine how powerful they are. And it's just, if you think that you can step only here, it's not true because you can step here, you can be here, but it's in your mind. It's your boundaries that limit you to go there. So, and I used to tell you, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that helped me a lot, actually. The next thing, Vinted helped me to beat my ego because then Vinted, from the very beginning, grew much faster than I did. And Vinted needed a person who knows what strategy is, how to implement that strategy, how to lead team and big team, what does it mean risk management, and many, many other things. And I didn't know because, I was 21 then, and I didn't have almost any working experience, and I would say life experience back then. So, and my ego told me, as a founder, you should know, and you should, at least if you don't know, just pretend that you know, and lead as you pretend that nothing happens. But then I stopped and I just asked myself, if I pretend, is this good for me and for my company? Like, can we achieve the maximum if I just pretend that I'm the best to lead the company? And this is what I did, and I had to beat my ego several times here to welcome more qualified people in the team. And now I can say it was one of the best decisions ever made because it was the highway to gain knowledge. Because it's nice to learn from your mistakes, but it's also like, I don't know, 10 times faster to learn from others who are like know much more than you do. The other thing was to hear myself, and it's more about leadership. As young leader, I used to have a rule. I want to please everyone so that everyone in the room would be happy. And what I ended up with being a leader without opinion, because like if you want to follow others, well, you don't follow yourself because you don't hear yourself, because your goal is to hear others, but not yourself. So this is like it was very, very difficult lesson. I happy I learned this. Just stop and listen, because you cannot please everyone. And if you're a leader, like leaders, followers follow, they don't lead. And it means that you need to choose one or the other way. Are you follower or are you the leader? But the leader, if you are the leader, it comes with a price. Not everyone will be happy. And how are you going to deal with this? So there are many more like techniques, but still you need to admit that not 100% happiness will not be achieved. And there is one more thing. It's like with Vinted, maybe it was like the 6th or 7th year at Vinted, I finally discovered that actually you need to make a choice. Do you want to be a leader or do you want to be the expert? Because I was like working in marketing, and I was trying to be the marketing expert, but at the same time I had to be a leader. And it was like for a very long time I tried to be both, but then I ended up in being average in both of them, because it was like a huge discovery. Then maybe for you it's obvious, but for me, like, because I started 21, it was like wow, discovery that leadership is a full-time job. And like, if you want to master one thing, one direction, if you want to be a good leader, you need to quit other expertise things, and you just need to follow, like, this direction of how to lead people and how to inspire people, how to make great strategies, and how to improve your strategic thinking, discipline, and everything else. While as an expert, you usually, like, you try to nail tools, how to do it better, how to optimize everything. So it's totally two different skill sets that are used for that. I thought I have one more slide, but so to end up, I would like to maybe wish for you, and especially to myself, well, for all of us actually, like, don't be afraid of failures. Because failures usually are the most precious lessons that we get. Just we don't like to fail, but after failures, usually, it's like the daylight again shines sun, and we get what we wanted. So, good luck.
Thank you, Milda. We do need to move on pretty quickly, but okay. So you're on the maternity leave right now. What's your plans after this? Any plans yet?
So I have, like, it needs some background. So I left 3 years ago, and I said, like, okay, now it's family time. So now in 3 years I have 3 kids. Okay. The plan is 4. So, so maybe in 2 years
we know what the plan is. All right.
my career as a family person, and then let's see. But now I'm converting much, because I'm studying at the moment, and I'm converting more to AI, climate change, and how it will change society, education. Estonia, you rule in education. So yes, some things that I would like to focus more.
Very nice. Okay, that's all we have time for. Please, one more round of applause. Milda Mitkute. Thank you, ma'am.